Hey there, Olia. So you've written your first set of essays, and that's great. So good work. Let's see what you had to say here. The first one is about schools. Should they be more entertaining or merely educate? Here's what you said. These days, the tendency of implementing new interactive approaches into the traditional ways of teaching children at schools is becoming more popular and widespread. While some commentators continue emphasizing only uh, the educational purpose of study establishments, I tend to agree with the other side of the argument, claiming that schools have to be more entertaining. In this essay, I shall examine various research in children's education to support my opinion. Okay, great. It's a nice paragraph. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. Good language. If there was one thing that I would change here, it would be this little expression right here, study establishments. Clearly, you're trying to find another synonym for schools, and that's good. You should, but this is probably not the most natural expression you could use here. So how about educational institutes? Let's see. Only educational. Continue emphasizing only the educational purpose of honestly, schools would have been okay. I know you just wrote it right here, but it would have been fine. I mean, there are just some words sometimes that any attempt to find a synonym for them is going to fall flat. So you're probably just better off using the original word, which is schools. It's okay, really. All right. So let's move on and see what you wrote in your body paragraphs. Firstly, an increased amount of interactive classes in a curriculum has positive effects or a positive effect on children's results. This is because adolescents tend to remember new information better while performing the tasks they are interested in. Take Finland's educational system as an example. Maybe a semicolon would have been better here than a comma. After they had refused, no, they didn't refuse from traditional methods. They did something else. They rejected traditional methods, or they replaced traditional methods. But they didn't refuse them. So after they had rejected traditional methods of teaching and added more interactive sessions, the average score of the pupils grew 30%. Get rid of the growed, get rid of the for, make it grew 30%. Seen in this light, it is clear that more entertaining classes helped improve children's performance. Okay. Secondly, traditional teaching methods of schools may be associated with lower educational value. This is because children have literally no free space in their schedule. Recent research conducted by Oxford scientists shows that pupils' possibilities to perceive new information plunges significantly after the third lesson. Therefore, a decreased number of classes combined with prolonged breaks, spelled wrong, breaks, will be useful in terms of studying. All right. To conclude, although it is undeniable that the prime purpose of schools is to teach children, I completely support the notion of implementing more entertaining educational methods. In the future, I believe more countries will provide educational reforms in order to increase the number of interactive classes. Okay. So, I wanted to read the whole essay first to kind of gauge it, and then we'll get into more details about what you actually wrote. Here's the good news. The good news is that you have followed the structure really quite well. So the template has been followed pretty faithfully, so well done there. It's very cohesive. It's very coherent. A lot of the language you used is lovely. So, as you can see, it took me a very short time to read the whole thing because it flowed quite nicely. Were there some mistakes? Yeah, there were a couple, but it wasn't anything that created a problem. So, vocabulary, grammar, and coherence and cohesion are all at a good point. So, congratulations. That's a great place to be starting. If there is one place that we really need to talk about, though, and spend some time analyzing, it has to be task achievement. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is to really analyze the question. Look at this. It says, some people think that schools have to be more entertaining. So I want you to think about what the word entertainment means. What are we talking about? What do we think of when we think of the word entertainment? So in a sense, they're actually checking your vocabulary here. So do you understand what is meant by an entertaining school? entertainment means fun. It means making students laugh. So certainly not this kind of traditional, the teacher sits in front of the blackboard and lectures and students just write notes. Obviously not, but it's a place where there's more fun, there's more enjoyment, there's more laughter for sure, okay? You wrote about interactive classes, and certainly interactive classes are a type of methodology that a lot of people associate with better test scores. However, it's possible for something interactive to still not be fun, okay? So remember, that's really what we're focusing on here, this idea of the element of fun in our schools. I don't think that just talking about interactive classes covers this element of entertainment. Could you make them linked? Yeah, of course you could. So if you had talked about maybe role plays where students you know, have to portray their portray a figure from history, okay, and they have to like basically, I don't know, act like a historical figure. That would be both interactive and probably fun too. So yeah, interactive methods, but you have to remember that it's this element of entertainment that is really being discussed here, okay? Because an interactive class could be, for example, you know, where, I mean, something like chemistry, where they're still doing something that is experiential and hands-on and engaging. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's entertaining, okay? So that's what I really want you to focus on here. Here, I think you were trying to talk about the other side, okay, which is this idea of the traditional school, and I think that's a great idea. I think that it is a good idea to talk about the other point of view, okay, soul education. Even if it's just to say, no, this is a terrible idea. It doesn't really, let's see, here, a decreased number of classes combined with prolonged breaks will be useful. I don't, again, feel like this really helps your argument at all, this idea of entertainment in the classroom. Another thing that you have to be aware of is that we always put the side that we support at the bottom. We put it closer to our conclusion. This is obviously the side that you support. So you had to reverse these paragraphs, okay, to make sure that it follows the correct progression of ideas. On the whole, for your first essay, it's really quite good. I know I've spent about 8 minutes talking about it, but it is a well-written essay. So like I said, you do have a lot of good things happening here. Just keep in mind some of these elements as you move forward in the course, okay? Let's take a look at the second one about an enjoyable activity. These days, more people advocate interactive ways of children's education, contrary to traditional approaches such as reading. All right, this feels a little awkward to me. Advocate interactive ways of children's education. It's just not really a natural sounding expression. So more people advocate interactive methods to help develop children's skills. Maybe that would have been a better sounding expression here, okay? I believe that entertaining ways of developing adolescent skills are the most progressive and effective. Okay. In this essay, I shall examine various research, not various, you can't say various research because research is uncountable, on alternative ways of the youth development to demonstrate point and prove arguments. Okay, here you've got some problems with your grammar. So let's talk about it a little bit. First of all, we're not talking about adolescents. Adolescents, if you use this word, you're really limiting the age group that we're talking about. And the essay clearly talks about children. Okay, so I would be careful. Adolescent, again, is not a synonym for children, so really be careful with that. It would have been fine to just use children, or youngsters would have been okay. All right. Let's see, but the rest of the sentence had some issues, so let's talk about it. I believe that entertaining ways of developing youngsters' skills are the most progressive and effective. In this essay, I shall examine research on alternative ways to aid youth, it's not youth development, you want to develop their skills. So alternative ways to develop skills in youths to demonstrate points with an S, improve arguments. Okay, probably a better way to say this. Firstly, playing on digital devices like games consoles is found to be extremely useful in terms of developing active skills among children. This is because playing online games assists in improving fine motor skills and spatial awareness. For example, a recent study by Oxford scientists showed that those children who had played on the PlayStation tended to show faster reactions during logical contests, and they tended to take better coordinated actions. Okay. Therefore, it is clear that playing on games consoles can be useful in terms of developing active abilities. All right, that's nice. Secondly, doing sports significantly improves mental and cognitive abilities. This is because physical activities encourage blood circulation and brain development. According to recent research conducted by Harvard scientists, the results of the final study assessment among children doing sports were 30% higher than those who did not do sports. As a consequence, it is undeniable that children with developed physical abilities tend to show better results in studying. Okay, nice. To conclude, taking into account all the examples and arguments, I firmly agree that enjoyable activities may be helpful in terms of developing active and cognitive abilities. In the future, I am sure that more schools and educational establishments will adopt new methods of education, including mostly interactive activities. Okay, this is lovely. It read again really easily. It flowed nicely. You're right on target with the template, so great. I mean, yeah, we had a couple of little issues in that first paragraph, but the rest of the essay flowed really nicely. There's a problem, though, again, and I'm sure you can probably guess what that problem is. It's with the task achievement. So look at the question again. Doing an enjoyable activity with a child can develop better skills and more creativity. So you spent the entire essay talking about skills. You talked about active skills. Okay? You talked about motor skills and spatial awareness. Then you talked about mental and cognitive abilities, but nowhere did you ever talk about creativity. And so an examiner who has been trained to correct essays like this is going to say, oh, well, this person missed half of the topic. Okay, and that's really going to cost you a lot in terms of your task achievement score. Okay, and if you don't believe me, take a look at this. This is the public band descriptors. Okay, for task 2, look at this. The 6 says addresses all parts of the task, although some parts may be more fully covered than others. Now that's a 6, but you didn't mention this thing about creativity at all. So, addresses the task only partially. And look where that puts you. Okay, so you can see that that and is really clear. They do expect you to talk about both better skills and more creativity. Okay, now another thing that they have asked you to talk about is reading. So that's another element that you could have thrown in here, which you didn't really so much. You only mentioned reading in the very, very beginning. You could have talked about how reading does not support these skills, okay, or to a much lesser degree than these activities do. Okay, so there's some things that I want you to think about. It's really important to make sure you understand these questions and what they expect from you. All right, so for your first essays, these are really well done. Despite the things that I'm pointing out with your task achievement, that's really expected. It's your first set of essays, so I don't want you to get discouraged. Like I said, both were well done. Okay, but as you move forward in the course, you really need to focus a lot on the questions and how they're asked in order to make sure that you're really covering all of the pieces of the task. Okay, now what you need to do is correct these essays, return them back to us corrected, create an error correction list where you write down all the mistakes that were pointed out to you, and then next to each mistake write what the corrected version is, send that back to us as well, and of course your new set of essays. Try to do them within the next 24 hours or so. So this way you can really apply everything you've been learning. Okay, I'm here. I'm waiting to see what you write, so good luck.